Raven. So I'm here today for the Witches Inn, and I am doing it today from my altar room. So I didn't get a chance to go into work today because I got people working on my house, so that's why I'm here. For those of you who have taken classes from me, you're very familiar with this scene. So just a quick note about today. We're going to talk about exploring your psychic gifts. I've heard from some folks that they have not been able to comment. Like, I guess YouTube is telling them that they need to create a channel of their own to comment or something like that. I did some research on that to try to figure out what the problem was. I couldn't find anything. So I don't know exactly what is going on with that, but uh, basically, if just try to chat, and if you still can't, just send me a message. You can do it on either Instagram or on the Wyld Academy or on Facebook, and then I can still continue to try to look into it. I may have to reach out to YouTube itself to see if I can figure out what's going on with that. But anyway, so welcome to Witches Inn, and today we're going to talk about psychic abilities and psychic gifts. And the thing to me that's really interesting is that people tend to think that, oh my God, psychic gifts are so special. Everybody has them. You have a psychic gift. You may not use it. You may not be aware that you have it, but we all have it to some degree or another. Some people's gifts are stronger. Some people's gifts are not as strong. But you have one. Guaranteed that you have one. Everybody has it. So let's talk about how these psychic gifts actually work. So let's look at and say, okay, we are, what does the brain do? So let's look at it from a scientific perspective first. So a brain essentially works as a giant energy translator. So you see things, you're viewing the different wavelengths of light, and the brain takes that information and translates it to you into what it is that you're hearing. When you're hearing, what you're seeing, when you're hearing things, you're hearing sound waves. Your brain takes that energy and translates it into something that you can hear. When you are feeling something, you're feeling the energy waves that kind of hit your body and hit different parts of you in different ways, either colder or warmer or whatever it is that you're feeling. Your brain translates that information for you as well. And it's really no different when we start talking about spiritual energy. The brain will take that energy coming in and it will translate it for you in one way or another. Now, it could be that you have basically told your brain over, your entire lifetime, no, I don't want that information. Don't give it to me. So this can, a lot of times it can happen out of fear, out of people telling you that it's evil, that it's bad. There's a lot of things that go into that. Or people telling you that it's just, BS because there's no such thing as psychic gifts. And eventually over time, we shut those gifts down. So for me, the shutdown happened via, I was afraid. So when I was a child, most kids are going to, they're innocent, right? So they're going to look at these gifts and they're going to just use them all the time because for them, it's just part of their normal world. And so I could see things with my actual eyes. And at some point, it got really scary when I started to realize that the things I was seeing were not really there. And so I prayed really hard and said, please, please, please take that away from me because it's scaring me and I don't want to see it. And then you can, even if you don't pray, you can just shut that part of yourself down. And so does it mean that your gifts go away? No. It means that they're still there, but your brain is saying, I don't really want that information. So the key a lot of times in terms of tapping into our psychic gifts and understanding what they are, the key to it is going to be into unlocking and changing the way that our brain functions to say to it, you know what? I really do want that information. You want to tell me what that is? I will take it. So that is the hard part. And especially because if it was done out of fear, a lot of times you have to overcome that fear. And it also has to be a lot of difficulty. A lot of people have difficulty in that they decide that they want to have a specific psychic gift and they have a different psychic gift. Ooh, I don't know what happened, but my hands are all, I'm not sure. I think it's because I was messing with my cauldron. Sorry, squirrel moment. So if your brain says this is a psychic gift you have, but you really don't want that, you want something else, then your brain may go, I can't give that to you right now. This is what you got. And I've seen this happen over time where people will come in, for example, and they'll be like a really strong empath, but they don't want to be an empath. They want to be a medium. And so they start working at that. And instead of developing their empathy skills, they try to build on top of that the mediumship without actually building their empathy skills first. So what happens is their gift gets kind of a warped sense of things. So I actually know a few people that has happened to. And so if you're a really, really strong empath, for example, when somebody walks into the room, you can read their energy. That's basically what empaths do. So you can read their entire energy. If they're happy, they're sad. And some people who are extremely gifted can read what it is that they're thinking about. And so let's say somebody comes to see you and they're like, I really want to receive a message from my mom. And they go and they're thinking about their mom. So they go and see this medium who's not really a medium, they're an empath. And what the empath is going to do is they're going to read information that's sitting on that aura, right? And so are they really connecting with the spirit of this person's mother? No. They're basically giving you the information that they're reading on the aura. So they'll start describing that person and say, well, she had this kind of hair, she wore this kind of dress, these were her favorite things. And the only reason they know that information is because they can read that in the aura of their client, not because they're actually receiving a message from a psychic or a spirit source. And the sad part of it is that everybody can eventually develop all the skills that they want, right? Not the same way, but they can. But you really need to really understand your basic gift first. And once you do, you can start branching out from that. So if you read by empathy and you're connecting with somebody on their energy, so you want to say, okay, once you develop that skill, then you can say, now I want to connect with spirits around this person. So I'm going to learn to differentiate this is all their energy, right? Even though they're projecting images of their mom, but this is them. It's got their energy signature on it, right? And then, so now I can go and check and see what other energy signatures around this person can I feel? And that becomes the gateway for you to develop the skill that you want. But if you never do that, then you never know the difference between what is it something that they're thinking and projecting and what is something that is actually, that's actually there, because you never went through the basic process of really developing your particular skills. And it's the same thing if somebody who's a medium and wants to be an empath. So you say, you can sense spirits and other things in the area and you can communicate with them. But if there's a live person in front of you, it may be really hard for you to get their feelings and their emotions and what's going on with them. But you can train that by practicing with the spirits that you connect with. So eventually you're going to say, I'm connecting with this person's spirits, the spirits that have already passed. Why can I not connect with the spirit of the person in front of me and find out what that spirit is feeling, even though that spirit has not passed yet? It is kind of an advancement of that gift. And it really translates into the psychic world, or the spirit world is going to give us signs in many, many different ways. And some things are going to be calling out for somebody, and other things are going to be calling out for other people. Just same way that some people have a favorite color, and some people like the room a little hot and a little cold. So it's a matter of trying to center and understand and develop what your particular talent is. So what is the first step to doing that? That is the number one question that we get. Where do I start? So the first thing is you start, and nobody wants to hear this. Nobody wants to hear this, but I'm going to tell you the secret. The secret is resolving all of the emotional bullshit you carry around with yourself, or at least trying to, and aligning all of those bodies, right? So a lot of times what I see is people say, oh, so I have all this emotional stuff that I don't want to deal with. If I just become really, really spiritual, I can leapfrog all of that and I can start doing all of this stuff without having to do that. And then this part here is going to resolve by itself. It's not. In order for your psychic gift to really kick in, your bodies have to be in alignment, which means if you carry any emotional trauma that bothers you every day, that has the capacity to throw you completely off, you need to be actively working on that at the same time that you are working on developing your psychic gift. Because if you don't do that, you're not really going to see any progress. Psychic energy and spirit energy is very, very subtle. It's not like a flashlight in your face, right? It's subtle, subtle energy. If you've got a lot of energy floating around in your energy body that's causing problems, you are not going to be able to tap in and feel these lighter, more subtle energies that are going to be around you. So that's step one. Step one is start working on yourself. Start trying to do some inner work to try to resolve some of the things and the issues that you have. And sometimes you may need to go and get help from, maybe a energy healer, or you may need to go to therapy to get that resolved. There's a lot of different ways that you can start working on that to get that resolved and to move forward and have some resolution on that. So that is really going to be your step one. So once you're into that state, then you can start focusing on your third eye chakra. So it's interesting to me that people think that their third eye is basically the chakra that, sees things. I'm going to see things, I'm going to hear things. But in actuality, the third eye basically represents our connection to the spirit world. So your empathy, if you're an empath, like I'm an empath, that comes through my third eye. If you are a medium, that's going to come in through your third eye. When you meditate, that's what you're using. When you practice your mind's eye visualization, that's what you're using. So you're going to have to start practicing all of that, opening your third eye, practicing working with it, so that you can start understanding the types of energies that you're going to come into contact with. And this is a long, long process, right? It's not something that's going to happen overnight. So it's something that you have to slowly let go of. What are the preconceived notions you have about psychic ability? Are you open to exploring your psychic ability, or are you sitting there thinking that you want something specific? Do you have any fear around that? Are you afraid you're going to see things you don't want to see? Is there any subconscious fears with that? So there's a lot of things to consider when you start moving into that arena to make sure that you are in a good place and you're ready to start expanding that gift. Once you do that, then there's other things you can do to practice, and there's different kinds of tools you can use. We're going to talk about those tomorrow on the live, but there's really a lot of different things that can be done to kind of aid you in that process. But the very first process is getting your bodies into alignment, which is interesting because one of the number one things that people come to me with is they say, I'm having problems. I feel like I'm blocked. I'm spiritually blocked. I can't move forward. I can't connect. I can't do anything. And then the question I generally ask them is, what's going on in your life right now? Are you under any undue stress? And then you get the answers like, oh yeah, I just lost my job, or oh yeah, I'm going through a divorce, or oh yeah, I'm something happened. I just lost a family member. So there's all these emotional traumas or mental traumas or any kind of trauma going on in their life that's causing so much stress. And those things put all of your energy bodies out of balance. And so, yes, you are not going to connect with that, because that is, think about where that resides in your energy system, right? You've got all these physical things, and it's basically towards the top. You have your third eye and your crown are the key chakras when you are working with any kind of psychic ability. So if your other chakras down here are completely out of whack, how is energy going to move freely through your entire system? It's not. And sometimes people will say, well, I'll just go get a chakra balancing, right? And you go in, you get a chakra balancing, which is great and may resolve the immediate issue. But if you don't resolve the underlying issues, that blockage is going to come back and come back and come back and come back, because your feeling of stress and of being overwhelmed has not been released and relieved. So even though you may get temporary relief from a chakra balancing, you're not going to get your permanent long-term relief from that. So connecting with your psychic ability a lot of times means walking in balance, or as much balance as you can. Now, nobody's perfect, right? There's no way that you're going to say, oh, I'm going to be perfect all the time. I'm going to resolve all my psychic issues. I'm not going to have anything. That's just not realistic. So what is it that we are able to do? So do the best that you can. And keep in mind that we are all works in progress. And so the minute you resolve one thing, you start noticing, wait a minute, there's all these other things here. Let me work on that. And then you resolve that thing and you go, wait a minute, now I got to do this. And so it's an ongoing self-improvement, self-evaluation process. And what you will notice with that is as you go through that process, your psychic gifts are going to start expanding and getting better. Why? Because you're removing everything that stands in the way of you connecting. So it's really, really important that the journey to start that is not the journey outside. It's the journey within. You connect to your psychic ability by going within yourself. And this is one of the reasons why I always say that self work is the number one kind of work that you need to do. It's the number one thing that you need to be working on every single day, because you never know what that trauma is doing to your energy system. And a lot of times we may turn around and say, oh, I know what's going on in my energy system, but chances are you don't. Chances are that you are so deeply involved in it that you can't see where the imbalance is. This is why a lot of times it's helpful to go see somebody to say, hey, check me out. What's going on? Why am I having this issue? And then have that person kind of help you out with it. You can do a chakra visualization, but and do a meditation that way, and do a chakra balancing yourself. But it's always good to have somebody that's standing outside of you to take a look and just to validate what you have, because otherwise you can run into the issue where you're blind to the issues that you're trying to overcome. You're blind to the problems that you are having right now. So it can be a real challenge to overcome that. You feel sometimes like you're hitting a brick wall, because you're like, I've done the chakra balancing, I've done this thing. Why is this not working? And I look at my chakras and everything's fine. Why is this not working? Well, because maybe your chakras aren't fine. Because when you look at your chakras, you may think that they're fine, but they're hiding the issues that you're kind of smack in the middle of, that you can't seem to see from afar. So a lot of times it's important to kind of get somebody on your team to help you out with that. And then going forward, how do you maintain that? How do you maintain your, sorry, my leg's cramping. How do you maintain your energy to make sure that it's working in balance? And that's going to require for you to have a balanced life, right? So you have time for yourself, you have time for work, you have time for family, and everything happens in a balance. And so that is also going to contribute to you being able to open those psychic gifts and psychic abilities. So if the first step is going to be working on yourself, getting some issues that you have resolved. Step 2 is going to be basically allowing the ability to manifest the way that it's going to. Don't fixate on, I want this or I want this. Just kind of say, you know what, I'm going to start just being aware and seeing what comes through with completely no expectations. And you may start noticing, when I go in here, I can tell when somebody's really upset. Now, let me tell you this. People say, oh, I can tell when people are upset. Like my husband, I can tell all the time. That is not empathy, okay? You have an energetic cord with your husband, and that energy kind of flows back and forth. So if you're looking at people that you are in close contact with, family members, people, close friends, you should be able to know what they're feeling, because that is what that energetic cord that brings that intimacy and that closeness of relationship is going to do for you. When you're looking at empathy, it means you walk into a room and you can feel the feelings of people that you don't know, that you don't have cords with, and you can know exactly what they're feeling. Now that may manifest in different ways. Some people you may just feel the feeling, and at first the feeling will be yours, and you'll feel like, why am I so angry all of a sudden? I have no reason to be angry. And then after a while, you're going to start going, wait a minute, I'm not angry. Somebody in this room is angry. And then when you realize that, then you can start kind of feeling out and going, where is this energy, this anger energy coming from? So I can start, and it's a very subtle thing in the very, very beginning. Especially if you're an empath. In the very beginning, the problem that I had is I would start bar fights, because I would be having an argument with somebody, and I did not know that I was an empath at the time. And the angrier they got, the more I would pick up their anger, and it would fuel my anger. So I got angry, and I would get more angry at them, which would in turn make them be more angry, and then I would be more angry, and it was this big loop of anger. And it ended up with me having to go to court mandated anger management training. And once I got my empathy under control, then that never happened again. So those are some of the things, when you first start, you have to make sure that getting your gift under control is the number one importance, because you want the gift to be truly a gift. You don't want to be at the mercy of that gift, because at that point it's more of a curse than a gift. So you want to make sure that you are in a position where you can say, okay, I want to use this now. I don't want to use it now. Open and close and open and close. Which is why a lot of times I have a big issue with people who stop other people in a supermarket and say, I got a spirit that has a message for you. And to me, that's a huge ethical boundary. You should not be reading other people, period, without their consent, period. So if a spirit comes to you and says, I have a message for this complete stranger that you don't know, you say, I don't have this person's consent to get involved in their business. So you need to go find the way to get that person to come to me, and I'll be happy to deliver the message. And what you may find at that point is the spirit's going to go, okay. They may get on that person and have that person maybe book an appointment or maybe come see you in a different way and ask you for the advice. You should never volunteer information to somebody that you think you received from a spirit, because you're violating that person's personal space, their energetic space. You're violating their confidence, everything. It's a huge violation. So it's important to understand, when you have these gifts, how do you maintain it under control? One of the things that I had problems with in the beginning is when my mediumship first started kicking in. I had spirits all the time, wanting to talk to me, middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, let's get up, let's do this. Finally, I had to say, wait a minute, guys, this is not a thing. We cannot do this. So I set a rule, and I said, you can come talk to me at this time. These other times are my personal times. And then, just like children, where you say, this is the rule, they still say, okay, well, I'm going to still come. And you go, no, not talking to you right now. You need to go back to where I told you to come and communicate with me. And it becomes an ongoing process of you reinforcing it. And then over time, they're going to do that. So I get a lot of people that come in and they say, oh, I'm so gifted that I can't control. I'm constantly being bombarded with stuff. And that is a problem, that you are opening yourself up all the time. So before you start going out there and starting to use your gift and starting to do all of these different things, first thing you have to learn is how I'm going to protect myself first, so that I can take my gift or my toy, let's say, play with it, and when I'm done, I put it away until I'm ready to use it again. And that's really, really hard. One of the things that I always recommend to people is, there's a book out there called The Witch's Shield by Christopher Penczak, and Penczak spelled Penczak. And we normally carry it at the shop, but it sells like hotcakes because I recommend it to everybody. But what this book talks about is, it talks about how to create that sovereignty within yourself, how to create an energetic shield around you that allows you to say, this is my me time, this is my personal time, and I am not going to be at the mercy of my gift. And let me tell you this, when you are at the mercy of your gift all the time, you can't develop it. You have no control over it. So it's a matter of, because in order for you to be able to control it and develop it, it means you need to be able to tap into it a little bit at a time. Learn to control that, tap a little bit more. Learn to control that, tap a little bit more. And a lot of times what ends up happening, people just want more and more and more. They want to open. And then all of a sudden they're bombarded with information all the time. And they're not sure, first of all, they most of the time don't interpret it correctly. They're receiving information that may not even be for the person that they think that they're receiving the information for, because they never bother to sit down and say, let me get this under control. Let me understand how this works. Let me understand what the triggers are for me, right? Before I start going out and putting myself out there and start saying, hey, I'm going to start doing this work now. It's kind of been a pandemic of the last, I say 10 years, 12 years that I've been in this business, where people want a gift and they want to market it immediately. I want this. And the minute they have it, they don't even bother understanding what it is or how it works. They're like, oh, I can do this. I'm going to start marketing it. I'm going to put up my website now and I'm going to start doing this. And it's really, you're doing a disservice, not just to yourself, but to the people that you're seeing, to the clients that you're seeing. So it's really important to take the time to really develop it and understand what it is. So to give you a perfect example, when we talk about developing it, right? So when I read for people, when I do a tarot reading, my reading is going to be a combination of my empathy, my own intuition, and my mediumship. So I have messages coming in from everywhere. And a lot of times, sometimes I may blurt something out and say, wow, that really makes no sense. And I blurt it out and I wait. When I have that self-doubt in my head, I normally ask spirit for validation and say, I need to know, is this for real or not? And what I get is a chill that runs all the way up my spine. And it's almost on command. If I don't get that chill, then I tell my customer, hold on. That may not necessarily be, that may just be my opinion. That may not necessarily be a message that's coming from, woo woo or anything like that. That's just my opinion because I didn't get that validation. And it's really easy in the beginning to get caught up in this. Everything is a sign. Everything is a message from Spirit. Spirit's not going to be talking to you 24/7. Spirit's got better shit to do with their time. So Spirit's going to talk to you when it needs to talk to you. And it's important that you understand what these little cues are and what are the feelings that you get. What are the things when you ask for validation, what's the validation that you're getting? And a lot of times what I always recommend people to do is ask for a physical validation so you can feel something. So at first you're going to say, they're going to say to you, hey, by the way, you just, you're going to have this dream here that maybe you're going to be in a car accident tomorrow. And you're like, oh my God, I don't want to be in a car accident. And then let's say tomorrow you're in a car accident and you're like, God damn it. So now I got validation that my dream actually happened, right? But the next time I dream, what I would like to do is it just a dream that I was in a car accident? Or am I really going to have a car accident? Because the next car accident dream you have may not necessarily be that you're going to be in a car accident. So there's always going to be a distinctive change in that. Not every message, and they may look the same, but they don't necessarily have the same meaning. So when you get that message again for the second time, you want to check in and say, hey, is this the right message? Am I right in this? And then you want to wait for some form of physical validation. Some people get chills. Some people get cold hands. I have a friend who her hands get really, really hot. Like they heat up like super fast. And so there's different ways that you can ask for that validation to come to you. But it is a crucial part of that. So if you're just starting out right now, your goal should be, how soon can I develop it so I can market it? No, that is not your goal. How soon can I develop it so that I can have control over it? I can improve my life and the life of those around me. And once I have full control over it, then maybe I can go ahead and start marketing myself in that field. And then you're going to be doing a good work for yourself and for your clients, and you're going to be truly, truly helping people. When you just want to have a skill so you can rush to the market, that is not coming from a good place. That is coming from a place of ego. And at that point, everything that you're going to give to clients is not necessarily going to be a true thing. It's all going to come from that place of ego. So it's important that you understand when you're doing this work that your intentions are true. You're taking the time to understand your gift, taking the time to develop it properly before you rush to do anything else. So I went way over today, 27 minutes. Sorry, guys. Sorry. So that is basically all I had to talk about psychic gifts and psychic abilities. So number one, you're going to start resolving any unresolved issues that you have that weigh heavy on you. That's your first step. So your step two is going to be starting to pay attention to things around you. Sometimes you can do like a journey, a meditation, right? You can do a meditation to talk to spirit and you get a message. And then you come back and you interpret the message. And you're like, I wonder if this is it. And then at that point, you can light a candle on your altar. If you got a message from your ancestors on your ancestor altar, if you got a message from just a random spirit on your regular working altar, and say, hey, this is the message you gave me. This is what I received. I need some validation. I need to know that I interpreted this correctly. And then pay attention. And there will be signs that will come up to you and say, yes, you interpreted correctly, or sometimes you get bitch slapped and say, no, you did not interpret it correctly. This is wrong, because spirit is not always going to sit down and say to you, here's what this means exactly, and here's what you need to know, here's what you need to do. No, they're going to get a visual. Here's a wrench. Great, that's your message. What the hell does a wrench mean? So you're going to have to start understanding what that means, and that is part of developing that gift. Eventually, you're going to know that you and spirit are going to have your own dictionary of communication. Spirit is very rarely going to communicate with you in words. They're going to communicate with emotions, with visual things, with feelings, with sometimes you may hear words. It's not very often. Sometimes they will do something to kind of scare you a little bit if they think that you're moving in a direction you probably shouldn't be moving, and the point is to get you to stop what you're doing. Sometimes you may have like just a feeling that they're supporting you and they've got you covered, whatever it is that you're doing. So there's a lot of different ways that they can communicate with you. But you always start with getting validation from that. And then from there it grows, and then you start moving into other areas. If you want to see if you are an empath, start practicing. Go into a place where you don't know anybody and reach out. Can you feel that what anybody's feeling? Can you feel what people are, and it's a matter of calming and, silencing your mind and going, okay, let me see what I can get. And you may not get anything. And that may not be that your gift starts with that. And maybe it starts somewhere else. But don't get discouraged because, like I said before, everybody has a gift. And as long as you pursue it, you can do it. That is going to be it for today. And do not forget to join us tomorrow at our live sale on the Raven Moon Emporium Instagram. That is going to be about things that are going to help boost your psychic ability, especially if you're just trying to get started on your gifts right now. So, all right, guys, it was great seeing everybody. I will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye. How do I turn this off?